The envelope sat right there on the kitchen table between us. Marcus didn't reach for it right away. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, wearing that slow, satisfied smirk I had grown to despise over the past 2 years. "You understand the terms, right?" Marcus said. $3,000 a month. Cash. First of every month. That's the price for spending time with Kayla and Destiny. My granddaughters. 7 and 4 years old. The two greatest reasons I still got out of bed every morning since my wife Lorraine passed away from cancer 2 years ago. And this man, my daughter Renee's husband of 3 years, was treating access to those little girls like some kind of monthly subscription service. Pushed the envelope across the table toward him. "It's all there," I said. He snatched it up fast, fingers already working at the seal, before it even cleared his side of the table. I watched his face the way you watch a storm roll in from the west, slow at first, then all at once. The smirk faded. His brow creased. His eyes moved across the documents inside, once, then twice, then a third time, like he couldn't believe what he was reading. The color drained right out of his cheeks. "What the hell is this?" His voice had lost that confident edge. "That," I said, keeping my tone even and steady, "is a legally binding promissory note dated 8 years ago. Your signature is right there at the bottom. You borrowed $62,000 from me for the down payment on this house. The house you are currently sitting in. The house that, according to the property title documents also in that envelope, is still registered in my name." Marcus's hand trembled as he held the papers. "You said it was a gift." "I said a lot of things," I replied. "But what matters is what's written down. What's legal. What's enforceable." I leaned forward. "You want to charge me to see my granddaughters? Fine. But first, you owe me $62,000 plus 8 years of interest at 5%. That comes to just over $92,000. The full calculation is in there." The kitchen went completely silent. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator and the distant noise of Kayla and Destiny playing upstairs. Marcus's jaw moved, but nothing came out. "Payment is due in 30 days, I said, standing up slowly. "After that, I start eviction proceedings. This is my house, Marcus. It's always been my house. You've just been living in it. Let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here. 8 years ago, my daughter Renee called me on a Sunday evening, happier than I'd heard her in a long time. She'd met someone, a man named Marcus Webb, a go-getter, she said, ambitious, driven. He worked in real estate development, made good money, had plans. They'd been together 7 months and were already talking seriously about a future together. I was careful with my optimism. Renee had been through a painful divorce 2 years earlier. Her first husband, Kayla's father, was a decent man, but they had grown apart when he relocated to Phoenix for work. He saw Kayla during summers and holidays. Renee had full custody. She was working as a physical therapist, building something real, something solid, but raising a child alone is hard on a woman, no matter how strong she is. And Renee was strong. She'd always been strong. But I could see the weight she was carrying. Then Marcus proposed. Fast, maybe. But Renee was glowing. I walked my daughter down the aisle at a small ceremony in Atlanta, surrounded by family and close friends. At the reception, I shook Marcus's hand and said, "Call me Dad if you ever feel like it." He smiled that smile of his and said, "Maybe one day, when I've earned it." Destiny was born a year later, a beautiful baby girl with Renee's smile and her father's eyes. I was in that hospital holding my new granddaughter and feeling something so pure and overwhelming that it almost broke me. After Lorraine died, these girls had become my anchor, my reason to keep moving forward. I saw them every single week. every Sunday without fail. Sometimes Thursdays too. I'd pick Kayla up from school, take both girls to the park, push them on the swings until my arms ached. I made my famous sweet potato pancakes on Saturday mornings when they'd sleep over. Marcus was often out of town. Business trips, client dinners, networking events. Renee would laugh softly and say, "You're here more than he is, Dad." Then she'd hug me. "The girls love you so much. Don't ever stop coming." Then came the house hunt. Their apartment in Decatur was getting tight with 2 kids and a dog Renee had rescued from the shelter. They wanted a yard, a real neighborhood, a home. But everything in their price range either needed gut renovations or sat too far from Renee's clinic. One evening Renee came by my place, the house in College Park where I'd lived for 35 years, where I'd raised her and her older brother, and she told me they'd found the perfect home, but were short on the down payment. The bank had approved their mortgage, but they needed $62,000 more. I didn't hesitate for a second. Lorraine and I had been savers our whole lives. We'd worked hard, lived careful, and built something. Renee was my daughter. Kyla and Destiny were my granddaughters. Family takes care of family. That's not a philosophy. That's a way of life. "I'll write you a check," I said. Renee's eyes filled up immediately. She started shaking her head. "Dad, I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking," I told her. "I'm offering. Use it for the down payment. Pay me back whenever you can." No rush. Marcus had been standing in the doorway. He crossed the room and shook my hand with both of his. "This is incredibly generous, sir. We won't ever forget this." My attorney, a man named Calvin Brooks, I'd known since we were both young and hungry in this city, drew up a simple promissory note. "Standard practice," Calvin said. "Protects everyone." Marcus signed it without reading it carefully. We all shook hands. They bought the house, a beautiful 4-bedroom out in Alpharetta, with a big backyard and a porch that caught the afternoon light. The girls got their own rooms. Renee told me there was a guest room that was mine whenever I wanted it. Life was good. Better than good. We built routines. Sunday dinners at their house. Thursday pickups from school. Summer trips down to Savannah. Christmas mornings started at my place before everyone headed to Marcus's parents over in Stone Mountain. I was present for every milestone. Kayla's first lost tooth, Destiny's first steps, birthday parties, school plays, all of it. And Renee, my daughter, this woman who had already proven she could carry more than most, she was flourishing. She was a wonderful mother. Patient, warm, fierce when she needed to be. Every time I watched her with those girls, I saw Lorraine in her. The same kind of quiet, unshakable love that doesn't ask for applause because it never needed any. But slowly, things began to change. It started small. Marcus would make comments when I'd arrive on a Thursday. "You're here again?" Or when I'd stay for dinner, "Don't you have your own place?" Renee would laugh it off. "Stop it, Marcus. Dad is always welcome here." But the comments kept coming, and they got sharper. "You're coddling them. You're undermining how we parent. They need to learn they can't run to Grandpa every 5 minutes." I tried to adapt. I started calling ahead before every visit. I asked Renee if each trip was okay. I gave them space. But Marcus's irritation seemed to grow no matter what I did. Then came the ultimatum. 6 months ago, I arrived for Sunday dinner as usual. Renee had texted me earlier that she was making her mother's smothered chicken, my favorite meal in the world. But when I stepped through the front door, Marcus was standing in the hallway like a bouncer. "We need to talk," he said. Not hello, not come on in, just that. Renee was in the kitchen. I could hear the girls upstairs. Marcus blocked my path with his arms crossed. "This isn't working," he said. "You being here all the time." The girls are too attached. Renee structures her entire week around your schedule. It's not healthy for our family. I kept my voice low and steady. I'm their grandfather. Renee wants me here. Renee is too kind to tell you the truth, he said. So I will. If you want to keep seeing Kayla and Destiny, there needs to be compensation. $3,000 a month, cash. I actually laughed. I thought the man was joking. But he wasn't. I looked past him to where Renee had appeared in the kitchen doorway. She'd heard every word. Her face was pale, her eyes wide, but she didn't move. She didn't speak. And in that moment, watching my daughter go silent in her own home, I understood that what was happening here had nothing to do with money. It had everything to do with control. I left without eating that night. I drove home in a kind of fog. I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I had taught Renee to make cornbread from scratch, where Lorraine and I had shared coffee every single morning for 34 years, and I tried to make sense of what had just happened. My phone buzzed 20 minutes later. Renee, Dad, I am so sorry. Please let me talk to him. He's under a lot of pressure right now. He doesn't mean it, but he did mean it. Over the next week, Marcus didn't soften or backtrack. He sent me a formal text message, structured like a legal notice. Visitation terms, $3,000 per month, first of the month, cash only. Maximum 2 visits per month, scheduled at least 72 hours in advance. No overnight stays. No involvement in parenting decisions. I forwarded everything to Calvin. We met at his office on a Wednesday afternoon. Calvin read through Marcus's text slowly, then set his glasses on the desk. He can't legally charge you to see your grandchildren, he said, but he can make it difficult. If Renee goes along with it and denies you access, you'd have to fight for grandparent visitation rights. Georgia courts have some protections there, but it's a battle. Expensive and uncertain. What about the promissory note? I said. And the house? Calvin pulled up the property records and went quiet. Then a slow smile spread across his face. Now this is something. He turned the screen toward me. The house is still titled in your name, Robert. The mortgage is in their names. Marcus and Renee took that on, but the property deed was never transferred to them. According to this, you are still the legal owner of that home. My heart started knocking. How is that possible? When you provided the down payment and they closed escrow, there were some timing complications. The title transfer was supposed to happen 6 months after closing, but it never did. No one followed up, which means legally, right now, you own that house. They are living in a property you hold the title to, paying a mortgage on a home that is yours. And the promissory note states clearly that the $62,000 was a loan, not a gift. Marcus signed it. Renee signed it as co-borrower. It is legally enforceable. Calvin leaned back. Robert, you can do more than use this. You can enforce it. Demand full repayment. And if they cannot pay, which I'm guessing they cannot, you have grounds to begin eviction proceedings. You've been letting them live there out of the goodness of your heart. If Marcus wants to play hardball, you can play harder. I went home that night and barely slept. I kept thinking about Destiny's little hand wrapped around my finger. I kept hearing Kayla's laugh. The idea of not seeing them was physically painful in a way I don't have words for. But paying Marcus, letting him extort me, letting him use my own grandchildren as leverage, felt like a betrayal of everything Lorraine and I had ever stood for. Everything we had tried to teach Renee about what love actually looks like. Love that doesn't charge admission. Love that doesn't come with conditions. I made my decision. The following Sunday, I showed up at the house. Marcus answered the door, same stance as before, blocking the entrance. You bring it? He asked. I brought something, I said. Can we talk inside? He looked suspicious, but stepped aside. Renee was in the living room with the girls. Kyla and Destiny both jumped up the moment they saw me. Marcus cut them off sharply. Not right now, girls. Grandpa and I have business. His tone was so cold that both girls froze in place. Destiny's lower lip started trembling. And right there, watching that little 4-year-old's face crumple because of her father's voice, that removed every last shred of doubt I had about what I was about to do. We sat at the kitchen table. Just Marcus and me. I could hear Renee in the living room, her voice pitched artificially bright as she tried to distract the girls with something. Doing what women in difficult marriages so often do. Carrying the emotional weight of a room while the man at the center of it acts like none of it costs anything. That's when I slid the envelope across the table. I watched his face. The whole time I explained it. The promissory note, the property title, the legal weight of everything inside that envelope. His smirk disappeared and didn't come back. You're bluffing, he said. But his voice shook. Sarah would never. He caught himself. Renee would never let you do this. Renee doesn't have a vote in what you owe me, I said quietly. You made this about money, Marcus. So let's talk money. You owe me $92,000. Due in 30 days. After that, I begin eviction proceedings. We have kids, he said. We have a mortgage. You can't just, the bank has a mortgage on a house I own. They'll be very interested to learn about this arrangement. As will the IRS, since I'll need to report the loan repayment as income, and you'll need to explain the source of $92,000. Marcus's hands curled into fists on the table. For a long moment, I thought he might come across it at me. I'm 63 years old, but I spent 25 years in construction before moving into project management. I'm not a small man, and I've never been one to flinch. But Marcus didn't come across the table. He stood up, knocking his chair back hard, and pointed toward the door. Get out. Get out of my house. Your house? I rose slowly and picked up my jacket. Read the documents, Marcus. It's my house. You've been living in my house, raising your children in my house. And now you're either going to pay me what you owe, or you're going to leave. Those are your two options. I walked out. Renee caught me at the front door. She looked like she hadn't slept in a month. I held her for a moment and said, call me tonight. When he's calmed down. We need to talk. She nodded against my shoulder. She called at 11 that night, barely above a whisper. She told me things she had never said out loud before. That Marcus had been controlling her for years. That he criticized her parenting constantly. That if she disagreed with him about anything, he'd go silent for days, weaponizing the quiet until she apologized for things that weren't her fault. That he'd told her repeatedly she was too dependent on me, too soft, too emotional. That she'd spent 3 years waiting for milestones to fix him, the wedding, the baby, the house, and none of them had. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, because I kept believing it would get better, she said. And because I was ashamed. I'm a grown woman with a career and 2 kids, and I couldn't see what was right in front of me. There was a long silence. I see it now, Dad. That right there, that sentence took everything she had. I know what it costs a woman to say those words out loud after years of slowly being told that her instincts were wrong. Renee had always been strong. But strength doesn't make you immune to someone who is committed to dismantling your confidence, piece by piece, day by day, in her own home. I told her she didn't have to stay. I told her she had options. I told her I would be there for every single step. What are you going to do with the house? She asked finally. I will never put you and those girls out, I said. But Marcus needs to face what he's done. He's been living in a house he doesn't own. Using it as a castle he built on someone else's foundation, treating it like a weapon against the people who actually sacrificed for it. That ends now. She was quiet for a moment. Then, what do you need me to do? Document everything, I said. His threats, his behavior, the things he says to you and the girls. Record conversations if you can. Georgia is a one-party consent state. You can legally record conversations you're a part of. A pause. And when the time comes, Renee, I need you to be ready to choose yourself. The next 30 days were the hardest of my life since I buried Lorraine. Marcus hired an attorney, some aggressive young guy who tried to argue that the promissory note was unenforceable, that the title situation was a clerical oversight, that I was attempting to defraud my own daughter. Calvin shut that down with quiet, methodical efficiency. He laid out the original loan documents, the title search records, the email chains from 8 years ago discussing the temporary title arrangement, and Marcus's signature on multiple pages acknowledging the loan. Your client owes my client money, Calvin told Marcus's attorney in a meeting room downtown. $92,000, plus our legal fees if this goes to court, plus whatever the judge decides to tack on for wasting everyone's time. Marcus's attorney looked at the documents, then looked at Marcus. Can you pay this? Marcus's face went red. It's an ambush. He waited years to spring this. He waited until your client tried to extort him for access to his grandchildren, Calvin said calmly. And I should mention, I have the text messages. All of them. Additionally, I have several hours of recorded audio provided voluntarily by Mrs. Webb, recordings of Mr. Webb threatening her father, making financial demands, and discussing ways to punish both Mrs. Webb and her father for not complying with his wishes. That was the moment everything shifted in that room. Renee had been recording. She had been quietly, carefully doing exactly what I'd asked her to do, gathering evidence, protecting herself, protecting her daughters. This is what people rarely understand about women in controlling relationships, the strength required to function, normally on the surface, while building a way out underneath. Renee had done that. She had done it alone, with 2 kids to care for and a full-time job and a husband watching her every move. She had been braver than most people will ever have to be. Marcus's attorney looked ill. I need to consult with my client privately. They stepped out. Raised voices came through the door. When they returned, Marcus looked beaten down in a way I hadn't seen before. We'll agree to a payment plan, his attorney said. $2,000 a month until the debt is satisfied. No, I said. Everyone looked at me. No, I repeated. I want the full amount. I want the house. That's unreasonable, Marcus's attorney said. What's unreasonable, I said. Keeping my voice level, is charging a grandfather $3,000 a month to see his granddaughters. What's unreasonable is using minor children as a financial bargaining chip. What's unreasonable is living in a house built on someone else's sacrifice and then turning that house into a weapon against the very person who made it possible. I let that settle. That is unreasonable. Calvin stepped in. My client is prepared to offer one alternative. Mr. Marcus Webb signs over all rights and interests in the property. He removes himself from the mortgage, with Mrs. Webb refinancing in her name only, co-signed by Mr. Robert Mitchell. He vacates the property within 60 days. In exchange, my client forgives the debt entirely. Marcus went from red to purple. You want me to give up my house? Where my kids live? It's not your house, Calvin said. It never was. And the kids, I added, stay exactly where they are, with their mother, in their home. You're the only one who needs to leave, Marcus. Renee would never agree to this. Actually, said a voice from the doorway, I already have. Renee walked in. She had been waiting just outside. And she walked in the way a woman walks when she has already done the hardest part alone and doesn't need anyone to carry her through the rest. She sat down beside me and took my hand. Her hand was trembling slightly, but her voice was not. "I've spoken with a family attorney," she said. "I'm filing for divorce. I'm seeking full custody of Kayla and Destiny, with supervised visitation for you, pending completion of a court-ordered intervention program. And I'm moving forward with refinancing the house in my name with my father as co-signer." Marcus stared at her like she was someone he'd never seen before. "You can't do this." "I can," Renee said. "I am. You spent 3 years trying to make me feel small. 3 years trying to cut me off from my father, from the people who love me, from my own judgment. You told me I was too emotional, too dependent, too soft. But those things you called weaknesses, they were never weaknesses. You just needed me to believe they were, so I'd stay manageable." She paused. "I'm done being managed." The legal process took about 4 months. Marcus fought it at first, tried to paint me as an overbearing father who had never let his daughter grow up. But the recordings Renee had made told a very different story. Hours of Marcus belittling her, threatening her, discussing ways to punish her for spending time with me, and letting the girls have a relationship with their grandfather. The judge had heard enough. He stated on the record that Marcus had attempted to extort the grandfather for access to his own grandchildren, had used minor children as leverage in a financial dispute, and had failed to disclose the true ownership status of the marital home to his wife, allowing her to believe for years that they were equal partners in her property he had no legal claim to. Marcus was ordered to vacate within 30 days. The divorce was finalized on an expedited timeline given the documented pattern of emotional abuse. Renee received full custody. Marcus was granted supervised visitation every other weekend, contingent on completing the court-ordered counseling program. The refinancing took a little longer, but Renee's income as a physical therapist was strong, and with me as co-signer, the bank approved her for a mortgage that paid off the existing one. I forgave the promissory note debt in full and transferred the title to Renee. The house was hers now. Really, truly hers. Marcus moved into a 1-bedroom apartment out in Marietta. He sees the girls, but always with a supervisor, always in a neutral location. Kayla, who is 7 and understands more than adults sometimes give her credit for, told me recently that she's glad things are calmer now. Destiny, who just turned 5, mostly just seems happy that Sunday mornings with Grandpa are back. Today is Sunday. I'm here at the house. Renee's house. My daughter's house where my granddaughters live and grow and fill every room with noise. Renee is in the kitchen making smothered chicken. Kayla is beside her, carefully stirring the pot the way I showed her. Destiny is at the kitchen table with a box of crayons, working on something serious. When I lean over to look, she covers it with her arm. "It's a surprise, Grandpa." 5 minutes later, she holds it up. It's our family. 4 figures drawn in crayon. Renee tall in the middle, Kayla and Destiny on either side, and a large figure in the corner labeled Grandpa in big uneven letters. I am twice the size of everyone else. "You made me pretty big," I tell her. Destiny looks at me with total seriousness. "That's because you're the strongest," she says. "Mommy said you protected us." I have to look away for a moment. When I look back, Renee is watching me from the stove. Her eyes are full, but she's smiling. A real smile, open and unguarded, the kind I hadn't seen on her face in years. "Can you stay tonight, Dad?" She says. "The girls want to watch a movie with you, and it's supposed to get cold. I don't want you driving home late." "Of course," I say. "You're sleeping in your room," Kayla announces from the stove, not looking up. "My room?" "Grandpa's room," Renee says. "It's always been Grandpa's room. After dinner, after the movie, After I've tucked both girls in and listened to Destiny tell me an elaborate story about a horse that could fly and speak French, Renee and I sit in the living room. She's on the couch with tea. I'm in the old armchair we moved over from my house in College Park. Do you regret any of it? She asks. The way you handled everything. I think about Marcus's face when the envelope landed in front of him. I think about Calvin's quiet confidence in that conference room. I think about Renee walking through that door on her own 2 feet and saying, I already have. No, I say, not for a single second. She nods, sips her tea. He called last week, Marcus. He said he was sorry, that the counseling is helping, that he didn't realize how far he'd gone. She pauses. I don't know if I believe him, but that's not my concern anymore. My concern is making sure Kayla and Destiny grow up knowing they are loved, knowing they are safe, knowing they never have to earn someone's love with silence and compliance. You're doing a good job, Renee. I learned from you, she says softly. And from Mom, you showed me what love actually looks like. Not the kind with a price tag. Not the kind with conditions. Just love. We sit quietly. Outside the window, a cold Georgia wind moves through the oak trees in the yard. Upstairs, one of the girls calls out something in her sleep. Renee starts to rise, but I wave her back. I'll check, I say. I go upstairs. I pull Destiny's blanket back up around her shoulders. I look in on Kayla, sleeping with her arm folded under her chin the way she has since she was a baby. I stand in the hallway between their 2 rooms for a long moment. This house, built with money Lorraine and I saved across decades, nearly taken from us by a man who confused ownership with control, now full of light and noise and crayon drawings and the particular chaos of 2 little girls who know without any doubt at all that they are loved. Before I sleep, I take out my wallet. Inside is a photograph of Lorraine, taken the summer before she got sick. She's laughing at something I said, head tilted back, completely unguarded. I touch the edge of the photo gently. I kept them safe, I say quietly. Our girls. All 3 of them? Just like you would have wanted. I like to think she already knew I would. Outside, the wind settles. Inside, we are warm. We are safe. We are together. And not one person in the world is ever going to put a price on that again. Thank you for being here and letting me share my story. If it touched you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment telling me what city and state you're watching from. I love knowing where you all are. If you want to support me even more, there's a donation link in the description. I share real-life stories like this every single day. And now, 2 of my most popular videos will appear on your screen. Choose whichever one calls to you. Until next time, remember, your story isn't over just because someone tried to write the ending without you.